We all have a responsibility to stand up for our nurses who are on the front lines as we speak. Once a nurse, always a nurse. And whether I've got the title of CEO doesn't mean I can just sit behind that desk while they're working hard to take care of our patients.
You know, people don't believe in the healthcare system. They don't believe in the insurance companies. They don't believe in hospitals.
There are definitely leaders out there, organizations out there who want to stifle and hold back initiatives that are all about creating a sense of community. We never want to let somebody else assume or tell us who we are.
Ready to shatter the status quo and unleash your leadership potential? Sick of the same old tired leadership advice? Well, get ready to disrupt your thinking and transform your leadership skills. Welcome to Sound Leadership with DJ, the podcast that's about to challenge everything you thought you knew about leadership. Join DJ as he dives into the trenches with industry trailblazers, exploring the real issues leaders face today. From innovative strategies to proven techniques, we'll uncover the secrets to taking your leadership from good to great. Get ready to be inspired, challenged, and equipped to conquer new heights. Join the movement and let's redefine leadership together. This is Sound Leadership with DJ. Leadership redefined.
Contributor who has leveraged his skills in leadership to help him succeed to the spot and the places that he is in today. His recipe for successful leadership includes empathetic leadership that focuses on others first, building meaningful relationships, and fostering human-centered connection. He thinks big while focusing on the successful environment and the changes that lead a successful environment. We're excited to learn from Geoffrey and gain insights into his leadership. So whether you're an experienced leader looking to sharpen your skills or a newcomer looking to embark into leadership, Sound Leadership with DJ has something for you. Join us as we sit down with Geoffrey and explore the world of heart leadership, a leadership style that puts people at the center of everything. But before I bring him on, I would be remiss to not tell you to stay connected with us on our social media pages such as LinkedIn, YouTube. You can follow us at Sound Leadership with DJ, where we share updates and share behind-the-scenes footages of episodes just like this. And hey, if you're riding in that car, or you're walking, you're jogging, you're at the gym, you can still listen to us on your favorite podcast platforms. That includes Apple Music, iHeart, Alexa, and so much more. Simply search Sound Leadership with DJ and hit that subscribe button. Now it's time for you to buckle up. I want you to be prepared to be inspired, motivated, empowered to be your best self. Welcome, Geoffrey. How you doing today?
Good, DJ. How are you doing?
I am excited to have you on. To the listeners, to the viewers, listen, I have been chasing Geoffrey all last year, all 2023. I finally got him on in 2024, so I'm excited to learn about heart leadership, learn about growing your personal brand as a leader, and not losing yourself in organizations as a leader. So, you know, as I always tell people, I did that intro, and we talked about who Geoffrey was, but it holds no candles. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Well, thank you for the opportunity and certainly, so special to be here with you. Obviously, as you said, son of a nurse, started my career in hospital administration in June of 2008. I always tell people at the same hospital that my mother worked at for many, many years as a nurse. She was not there actually when I served, but I had the privilege to see so much of what my mother accomplished as a nurse when I was there as a leader. And it was really in my start of my hospital health system career where I really got to not just be mentored, coached, encouraged, and supported by some of the best leaders I've ever experienced. It was also the place where I really started to define what I saw in myself from a leadership perspective and how I could be a beacon of hope for others from a leadership perspective. And so been privileged to serve now in hospital administration and higher education leadership, worked, at a global level with several organizations and always have been in leadership roles.
Yeah.
But what really defines me is my strong desire, as you referenced, to really connect meaningfully and authentically with others.
Wow. So let's dive into it, right? Because one of the beacons of your brand is son of a nurse, right? So, you know, is that what drew you into leadership, or it drew you into healthcare rather, is the fact that you were a son of a nurse?
Yeah. There is no question of the influence and impact that my mother had on me as a young child, right? I mean, the reality of it is that I was raised by a single mom. My parents were divorced when I was 5, and my mother graduated from community college as a nurse when I was 5. And
Wow.
so I can remember actually attending her graduation and being not just proud, but super proud of all that she accomplished.
Yeah.
And then throughout my childhood and even into my middle school, high school years, to see her career flourish with a commitment to serve and help patients. And throughout my high school, middle school years, and even intermediate, I would hear about from other families, oh, your mom was my nurse. And so, that aspect certainly had an impact. I never thought I would enter healthcare, though.
Wow.
To be honest with you, I was a political science major in college. Really thought I was going to go the electoral, route from a political end. Um, that has always been a love of mine. And then, had an internship when I was a senior in a healthcare system, and I saw the opportunities from a leadership perspective because I am the type of person that loved the study of leadership, loved the engagement of leadership, even back in my middle school and high school days. And so when I went to college, I had the opportunity to really hone in on it and really define it. Went through a leader shape program, which certainly transformed my life. Had the opportunity to be a leader in many different causes while I was in high school and in college. And then when I had that internship, I realized, wow, this could be a great place for me to start my career. And I will tell you, not did just my mother have an influence. I was sort of, some would call it happenstance, some would call it luck. When I entered my healthcare system, the CEO was a nurse.
Wow.
And so she also had a enormous impact from a career perspective on me. And I had the privilege to serve with her for just over 5 years before she retired. And I'm proud to say she mentored me, truly coached me, spent a lot of time with her, and had the experience that most would just love to have, literally to just serve with a CEO as your mentor. And Kathy, who is my CEO, truly, I give a lot of credit to, in many ways, forming the Geoffrey of who I am today.
That's an amazing story, man. And to hear nurses, right, had a key in that. Many of my viewers, many of my listeners know that I am a registered nurse by trade. I've been a nurse for too many years, right? But, I think nurses often hold a special place in people's heart. They touch them at some point or another in their life. Everyone will need a nurse at some point or another in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So as we dive into, you walking into leadership, you're working to hone your skills and shape your skills into leadership. What is leadership by default to you? What is your definition of leadership?
Yeah. Yeah, and before I answer that, I just want to also just say thank you for being a nurse. And I think to your point, the one aspect that's really important to highlight here is that while we all will need a nurse and while we all still view nursing as the most trusted profession, we all have a responsibility to stand up for our nurses who are on the front lines as we speak and yet are in very difficult places and conditions because of leadership. And so I just want to highlight, that specifically, that how important that is, from a leadership standpoint.
Yeah, I
I think,
appreciate
to your point, leadership to me is truly all about supporting one another. And it is truly a gift. And let me just say that it is never about title. It is never about position. It is entirely about walking alongside another person and helping them achieve their dreams. That's what's most important. And so I have often said, and I regularly say still to this day, that we speak and we teach about leadership in almost all of the wrong ways. We need to really highlight the fact that leadership happens in all aspects. For example, you're a nurse. And when I have taught nurses as a professor, I have asked nurses so many times, are you a leader? And I'm always saddened to hear so many of them say, no, I'm not. I don't hold that title. I don't hold that role. But they do. They all are leaders. All of you, as our nurses, are leading every day, caring for patients, leading transformation of care, leading patient safety initiatives, leading patient education programs. And so for me, that's what I would sum it up as.
Wow, I think that's big. I think that's important. To your point, right? As a nurse, we are leading patient care. We're leading different initiatives. And I always take it a step farther, right? You're a father. You mentioned, when we were bantering before the live that you have 3 kids, right? That's leadership. So it doesn't mean you're sitting in a high position. It doesn't mean you're a CEO. It doesn't mean you're the COO, the CFO. Leadership can be anything and it can be anywhere. If you can gather a group of people to follow your lead and influence them to move in the direction that you want them to move, that's leadership.
Yep.
So, kudos to you and thank you once again for honoring nurses. As a nurse, I feel like as you mentioned, right, we're one of the most trusted professions, but sometimes as a nurse, I feel like we're battling things that we shouldn't have to battle, right? We're fighting for basic rights. We're fighting not to be abused at the bedside. We're fighting for breaks. We're fighting for adequate staffing. Now, I can get on the soapbox as a nurse, but that's not what we're here for. So back to the man. So as you started to develop your leadership skills, I'm sure you weren't the best leader that you are today. You weren't Mr. Hart leader. So talk to us about how you really developed your skills. I know you said you took in some course and you were mentored, but was there a defining moment when you was like, that's not it as a leader. I need to do better.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah. You know, I think, to me, learning and leading, as John F. Kennedy, said so eloquently, are indispensable. And I think so often leaders, particularly, don't understand the importance of constant, continuous learning. And for me, that has been probably one of the most frustrating parts of my journey, is serving with other leaders who just don't understand that.
Yeah.
And seeing people who are in leadership roles, because a leader has to have a strong commitment to learning, but they also have to have a strong commitment to intentional active listening. And so when I look at the leaders that have made a difference in my life, it is leaders who, to your earlier point, never forget their humble beginnings, never forget that they started somewhere, and ultimately want to help others get to that place or another place, depending on what their pursuits are. And that's, to me, what makes the difference. And so when I say to people, oftentimes, why I think so many leadership books are wrong, why I think so many things could be better, it really comes at that foundation that we have to give hope to people. We have to coach them. We have to encourage them, empower them to get to whatever their pursuits may be.
Wow. I think it's powerful what you just said, right? Because I've ran across so many leaders and people, right? You get the degree and you stop educating yourself. Well, technology changes every day. What we did yesterday does not work for today. I was just watching a show from 2004. That's 20 years ago, and I was like, oh, that wouldn't fly today. Nah, you'd be canceled. So if we're operating in that model and that mindset, we have to continue to grow and learn. And I think you mentioned it earlier. Talk about diversity and equity and inclusion, right? That's really some buzzwords that's going around now, but it's always been here. But if you're stuck in the past, you're not going to move with the future. You won't be there, and you'll be left in the past. And I think that you as a people connector, you meet all types of people. You meet leaders who are growing and leaders who are not growing. So as a leader, how do you help someone that is not growing, that's not moving forward with the times, right? Because that's something that we all experience. You meet with somebody and they're like, oh, we used to do it like this, or we always done it like this, or they're one track minded. So as a leader, how do you deal with that?
Yeah. First and foremost, DJ, I think what's so important in this conversation is every one of us, whether we're an introvert or an extrovert, desires to have a sense of community. Doesn't matter. Scientifically proven, proven in all aspects of life. Everyone wants to have a sense of community. And so, particularly on the topic of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, there are definitely leaders out there, organizations out there, elected officials out there who want to stifle and hold back initiatives that are all about creating a sense of community. And I just want to remind them that they all want community too. Maybe the community they want is one that's a bit closed, but majority of people want to be in a community where they can feel heard, valued, respected, and appreciated. And they have no right to try and take that away from people. And leaders have no right to take that away from people. Obviously, I have a lot of passion on this subject because I call it make it or break it moments of leadership. Our words matter. Our actions matter. How we choose to deal with these issues are truly make it or break it moments. We're at a time in this country and in this global world, every day is tough. Mental health is an epidemic. The fact that people have to be afraid of coming into workplaces with who they are, the fact that they may have to at times hide that is a problem. And so I think we as a community have to get honest and have to have these conversations. And I will remind my fellow colleagues and those that subscribe to act as if they're a leader that it is not about confrontation when we have these discussions. It is about a conscience of leadership, because it is a make it or break it moment. And why I say that is that our actions, our words, can really be the words that allow somebody to continue or allow somebody not to. And that's truly what it is. And, I look at in my career, as you know, COVID was a really challenging time for a lot of people. And one of the individuals that I truly admire from a leadership perspective was our former Secretary of Health when I lived in Pennsylvania, who's now the Federal Assistant Secretary of Health in Health and Human Services, Dr. Rachel Levine. Dr. Levine is the top transgender official ever in government. And Dr. Levine will tell people all the time, Dr. Levine to this day faces, attacks all the time for who she is. And she always says, she gives Yoda quotes and responds. And, I can't quote the same quotes because she's so amazing in how she does it. But what she says is, I'm not going to let any of those individuals hold me back from making progress. And so I take the same approach. I'll have those conversations with people. I focus on educating, and I focus on separating the more antagonistic aspects and get to the basics. We all want community. We all want to be valued, appreciated, heard, and listened to. And so as part of that, you've got to build community. You got to break bread. You've got to have sometimes tough conversations so that we can get to better conversations.
Man, so elegantly said. So I appreciate it. It's always nice to hear somebody fighting for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, right? So I appreciate what you're doing on so many levels, right? At a national level, at a local level. When I'm looking at your LinkedIn posts, you are you are the same as you're posting on LinkedIn, right? You're not different. You're not just for this podcast, right? This is what you preach, equity and inclusion. So I appreciate it. And I think, if we had more leaders with your philosophy, we would have a better workforce. We would have a better community, a better sense of belonging than we currently do. So once again, I just thank you for sharing that message and taking time out of your day to share that message and why it's important. As we talk about your leadership styles, and that's one of your passions. You also are passionate about being a heart leader. So can you talk to us about what a heart leader is?
Yeah. So really, a heart leader is somebody who, at the core, wants to first and always focus on others, people, connection, meaningful, authentic connection with another person. And some will describe it as human-centered leadership, very similar ideas there that connect. What's critical about it, though, is again, that aspect of humanity. that aspect of we are all humans. And one of the things that's so important, because I know there's a lot of fear out there with artificial intelligence, is the robots are never going to replace our opportunity to demonstrate empathy. And when you're a heart-centered leader or a heart leader, empathy, compassion.
Hey, did you hit that like button yet? That subscribe button yet? What if you didn't hit it? That's how I get views. I need the views. Sound Leadership with DJ invites you to like and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. If you haven't, hit that bell, hit that subscribe button so you'll be notified of every single episode that we host here on Sound Leadership with DJ. Have you done it yet? All right, now back to this episode.
As we talk about your leadership styles, and that's one of your passions. You also are passionate about being a heart leader. So can you talk to us about what a heart leader is?
Yeah, so really a heart leader is somebody who, at the core, wants to first and always focus on others, people, connection, meaningful, authentic connection with another person. And some will describe it as human-centered leadership, very similar ideas there that connect. What's critical about it, though, is again, that aspect of humanity, that aspect of we are all humans. And one of the things that's so important, because I know there's a lot of fear out there with artificial intelligence, is the robots are never going to replace our opportunity to demonstrate empathy. And when you're a heart-centered leader or a heart leader, empathy, compassion, the desire to support one another is at the very core of all aspects of a leader. And let me say this, I also, as a leader, make mistakes. That doesn't make me a leader without a heart. What's critical there is that I have to admit when I make a mistake. I've got to apologize when I make a mistake. I've got to get vulnerable as a leader. That's being a heart leader. So many leaders don't get vulnerable. And,
I can't show my emotion at work. I can't wear it on my sleeve. They got to see me rough and tough. They got to know that I mean business.
And that's where organizations have made it difficult, right? So many people will be, some of the best leaders who want to be who they are can't be who they are because of how the organizations are. And that's, hogwash. The reality of it is that organizations have to create a sense of community where you can be who you are. Because the reality of it is work is hard. Healthcare is hard. All industries have some aspect that is difficult. And I always say to people, I don't know what it's like to walk in their shoes, so nor should they tell me what it's like to walk in my shoes. But what a heart leader would do in that is the desire to want to walk alongside, not in their shoes, but walk alongside. And I'll give you an example. One of the topics that I also am very passionate about is in healthcare, particularly, we've got to remember, yes, it's a business, but it's about people. And that means everyone, not just our workforce, but also our community. And when I was a leader in healthcare, I worked for a CEO who believed that irregardless of the reimbursement process, irregardless of the financial process, it was our responsibility to take care of the community. And that meant take care of the homeless in our community, or as we should say, the unhoused members of our community. And I was a leader in initiatives related to getting access to care for them. And what was critical, and I learned such an important element of leadership when I led our county homeless advisory board, was I couldn't come at that initiative as the health system leader. I had to come at that initiative as Geoffrey. They had to see me as somebody who would take off the suit, take off the tie, get rid of those Cole Haan shoes, and get out into the community with them and break bread with them in their tents. Wow. So that they would build the trust with me for me to then get them access to care. And what I learned was such a profound experience in that. And it changed my life forever, because so many of them were veterans. So many of them had bad experiences with healthcare. So many of them were, through divorces. Yes. And so it was not just transformational, but it was eye-opening as to why we should be thinking differently when it comes to leadership.
What's interesting is, you framed it as a way of stepping away from your work clothes, and, being able to break bread with them. I'm gonna venture out and add a title to it because we know it as a title. And what you did was emotional intelligence, right? You was able to get down to their level, how they understand it. You broke away from the framework that they see. Some people see it as the man, right? They see it as the man. They're trying to tell us what to do. People don't believe in the healthcare system. They don't believe in the insurance companies. They don't believe in hospitals, but they will listen to somebody they trust.
Yeah.
And how do you gain that trust? You get down to a level that they understand. You meet them where they are. If it was a tent, you met them in a tent. If it was a homeless shelter, you met them in a homeless shelter. And I can say as a registered nurse, and I've done home care for many years, as I tell people, one of my first instances when I went into a home, I was an LP and I was training with an RN. She went into his home and she was saying, "Hey, I'm here because you have diabetes." And he's like, "No, I don't." And he's like, "No, it says you have diabetes." And he says, "No, I don't." And then I looked at him and said, "Has anybody talked to you about having the sugars?" And he said, "Oh yeah, I got the sugars.
Yeah.
I got it. I got them. I got some medicine in there." So what I did was I broke it down in a way that he understand. And what did that do? That helped gain trust, gain his buy-in, and become compliant with his medication. And we were able to move our initiative forward, which is health education. Right.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Kudos to you for knowing that, hey, as long as I'm wearing these suits, I'm wearing these Kohans, I'm pulling up in whatever kind of vehicle, it's not going to move it forward. I think as leaders, we forget to check our image and our persona, and realize where we are. As a leader, we can't show up to a staffing meeting or a meeting with anybody and say, "Hey, we're looking to do cuts," and then go outside to our Rolls Royce. It just doesn't work that way.
Exactly. Well, and to your point, DJ, when we visited with them and brought them meals into their tents and brought them resources, my CEO was with me.
Yeah. See.
And I will tell you, to this day, I'll never forget, we used to hold Thanksgiving meals and Christmas meals, and for them, we would bus them. We would pick them up, make sure they had transportation. I will never forget one of them coming up to her and saying, "If you are the definition of a CEO, imagine what our world would be like." And let me just say, this was a leader who didn't even have the hospital pay for those things. She paid out of her pocket.
Yeah.
She paid out of her pocket for them to get clothes so that they could feel special coming into things. She paid out of their pocket for them to go to shows. And that is what leadership truly is. She gave them not just hope, but she allowed them to experience life in a way that they had every right to. And, I think to your point, it's such a critical element. And the reality of it is it's also that special connection.
You use the term houseless, and I applaud you for using the correct term, right? It's not homeless. These people are houseless. And I have kids. I have a kid. I have one. You have kids. I have one. But when I'm training my daughter is, those correct terms. And we talk about, moving, leadership forward. So we have to be able to embrace terms and embrace pronouns and embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion. So when you use houseless, it really hit my heart because it's how we should define them. They're not homeless, And as I teach my daughter, we're all, no matter who you are, one paycheck away from being in their shoes. None of us are excluded from it. 100%. Mental health is important. And any of us can have a mental health breakdown at any moment and be right next to that person that you were driving your Ferrari by the day before. I don't have one. I want a Ferrari. But you can be there. So, I think it's important for us as leaders to not treat people that are houseless or people that are in other positions that, some would consider lower level positions as the scum of the earth, right? You've worked with leaders. They would never do what you do. They would never take off that suit and tie and take off the Kohans and put on some Pumas, and go into there. So, you kind of struck a chord with me. And I love that you're bringing your authentic self to this podcast because it needs to be said. It needs to be talked about. And then I'll say it again for the people in the back. We are all one paycheck away from the unemployment line. I don't care how much you got saved. Anything can happen. Mental health is real. And as leaders, we need to help prioritize mental health for our staff, but also for ourselves. So,
Exactly.
as a leader, how do you take care of your mental health and keep yourself intact so you can continue to be a heart leader for others?
Yeah. Self-care, to your point, is so critical. And, I think particularly in industries like healthcare, we can't talk enough about it. But as leaders, we can't preach about it if we're not living it. And I will be the first to admit that there has definitely been times in my life where I have certainly not lived that out fully. But then there's been other times where I have really, constantly reflected and reevaluated that very topic. And the reality of it is when I implement those things, life changes in such an amazing way. And so in 2023, started to really think about that as a busy, professional father of three. In literally after the Thanksgiving of 2021, lost my father to a sudden cardiac arrest, and a lot of reflection, occurred following that, because I myself will be honest and share, I have a pacemaker because I have sinus bradycardia, and for many years in the healthcare space, I'll say in our broken healthcare space, they will say, "Oh, you're a runner. You got runner's heart." Well, that's nice, but no, there's more to that than not, because you don't have a runner's heart and have a pace, and have a heart rate that goes below 32. Yet it took 3 years to be diagnosed, right? And so, the reality of it is as part of that, I needed to really reflect on what would and how could I take care of myself better. And, in 2023, I started to realize, we moved to North Carolina, much better weather than Pennsylvania, access to greenways where I can run. And I was just running this morning, and I spend a lot of time, I'm listening to my Peloton music. And when I'm running for several miles, it is truly a time for me to reflect. It is truly a time where I'm literally running those strides, and having having my feet hit that ground, and I'm thinking, wow, how amazing is this? And it is that is so important to me. And I tell people all the time that aspect, whether it's running or biking, in my case, from a cardio perspective, when I get to do that, that makes a huge difference, not just in my self-care, but certainly on the physical side too. But I just want to give this caveat here, right? That from a leadership perspective, we can't preach that if we don't do it. And also, we can't tell people to do it if we don't create an environment that allows them to do it. And that's where we have felt, that's where we have fell victim in healthcare, to why we have burnout and why we have challenges and such, because we have not created the conditions that are systematic to allow for people to do that. And I know for myself, the other piece of it is you got to have people that encourage you. You got to have people that hold you accountable. And so I've got a great group of friends and family, obviously my mother, my rest of my entire family, that just kind of encourage me and challenge me. And sometimes my boys go with me on their bikes to make me run a little faster. And those things make a difference.
I think you hit the nail on the head, right? You have to have a team. You have to surround yourself with people who are going to push you. And that always brings up a good point. As a leader, how do you lead people to give them the power to push you when you need to push, right? And tell you, hey, that's a wall, and if we keep going this direction, we're going to hit that wall. So how do you empower the people you're leading to stand up to you at the right time and say, you know what, Geoffrey, that's not it?
Yeah. I think it's that authenticity, right? So any team that I've ever had the privilege to lead knows that I'm there to serve. And one of the first things I say, particularly if I'm new or if they become new to the team, is I sort of level set with them. Yes, I may be in this seat from a leadership perspective, but I'm still Geoffrey. And if there's ever a time where I offend you, I upset you, I just rub you the wrong way, don't feel frightened or that you just can't come up to me. And that is truly comes down to authenticity, right? They're not going to have that connection if they fear that by doing so it's going to have retribution, or they fear by doing so it's going to cause other issues. I'm so scared when I hear this, right? Because it's happening so often. So many people are dealing with leaders that are in roles who they can't approach. And so for me, the most important piece is to be 100% approachable. Now, I will say, sometimes, you can also run into issues there, right? I've had even HR departments say to me, "You're too approachable."
Yeah.
And I always say, there's two doors, and HR, in that case, you can go out the second one, because I don't think a leader can ever be too approachable. What I learned with my first CEO was that you can't ever forget where you came from. And when she was the CEO running the health system of all aspects of it, she would still put on her scrubs and go help nurses during times of tough staffing, census, etc. Because she always said, once a nurse, always a nurse. Mm-hmm. And whether I've got the title of CEO doesn't mean I can just sit behind that desk while they're working hard to take care of our patients. And, that aspect is really important, because guess what? They would tell her things because she was there with them. And that, to me, is what's most important.
Man, I know we're drawing this to a close, but I'm going to have you back for a second time, because you're dropping gems, and I appreciate it. I echo that as a nurse. If I need to get out there and help, I'm going to get out there and help. Now, I may not be a practicing nurse all the time, so there are certain things I'm just not going to do. I'm not out there starting IV. You don't want to get poked 6-7 times. But I can pass some medications. I can do an assessment. I can call the doctor. I can get orders. I can greet the new admission person. I can do the discharge. As a nurse, there's so many different ways that I can contribute to this team that would be impactful to them. And as a leaders, like you said, whether you're a healthcare provider or not, you're a leader. You can always go out there and help your team. You don't have to sit behind there, right? So many leaders would see their team struggling and they would walk right past them. Won't even acknowledge them, right? So, I applaud you. And, throughout your career, you've worked for plenty of people, but you've also grown your personal brand and became a healthcare consultant and helped other organizations kind of move it forward. So talk to us about what you do as a healthcare consultant. I found you on LinkedIn, right? You got some 25,000 followers on LinkedIn. You have your own personal brand, and while you do work and serve others, you also work and serve your own organization as a healthcare consultant. So can you talk to us about you and how people can reach you, and just a little bit more about, the consultant work that you do?
Yeah. I think one of the aspects that I learned, particularly in leadership early on in my career, is that we all have to really own our personal brand that ultimately becomes the professional brand, right? And, the reality of that is in fact, I was helping Northern Arizona University once.
Wait. Yesterday was your birthday? Happy birthday.
Yeah, yesterday. Yep.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Big 38, so I feel a lot older.
Happy birthday,
right?
my friend.
The reality of it is I was helping Northern Arizona University once when they were developing a new MBA. And one of the things that I did specifically with them was worked to look at this very issue of your personal brand. And in the topic of leadership, we often assume branding is at that marketing organizational lens. But the reality of it is that when we talk about branding, it is so important for us as professionals to really own that. We've got to own it. We've got to amplify it, and we've got to celebrate it. And I tell people all the time, that is what truly makes a difference in all the work that we do. But also it becomes part of our mission. It becomes part of our values, and it becomes part of what we seek to offer. And so from a consulting perspective, when I've worked on consulting projects, it's all been part of the unique value proposition that I may be able to bring because of my experience, because of my passion, because of my brand. That is what makes a difference. And so I can't stress enough that, particularly at a time where we've got 6 different generations in the workplace, 6, And we have people all the time saying, well, that group of millennials and that group of Gen Y and group of Gen Z and this, that, they do this, they don't do this. That's not for them or for any of us to really debate. But what is important is for all of us to own our brand. And so I tell people all the time, I'm a millennial. Don't call me lazy. Don't tell me I switched jobs. Because you know what? You want to get down to the nitty gritty of it? Yeah, I'm going to switch a job if you're a terrible leader or if you have bad organizational culture. I am. Because you know what? I'm not going to be in that position where I've got to be stressed, because I know that stress is going to then come onto my family and come onto other people. And so don't coin us for that without understanding the facts. And that's just an example. And so again, that aspect of brand is important, because that's going to be not just a part of who I am professionally, but it's going to correlate with who I am individually. And that's why I talk so passionately on this topic, because we've got to own who we are. And it is, we never want to let somebody else assume or tell us who we are, because that happens far too often in the workplace.
You are just dropping jewels. And I would say I'm a millennial, and it's funny that you mentioned that. I was just asked yesterday, I was teaching an AIT course for administrators in training, and they were talking about, when is it time to move jobs? And I said, well, there's a variety of ages on this at 35 students. I said, so my views and opinion does not reflect this organization that I'm working for. And it's just my views and opinion. To your point, right? I am a millennial. And I tell people, I used to get asked early on in my career, well, why did you stay here for this amount of time? Why did you do this? And most recently, I got asked that when I was interviewing for a C-suite role. And I point blank looked at the CEO and I said, if I would have followed the traditional path, I wouldn't be sitting in front of you at 31 interviewing for a C-suite role. I'm sitting here because I made strategic decisions. Mm-hmm. If I would have sat at that job for 4 or 5 years, I might be a director of nursing right now. I might be. Yep. But I made strategic decisions. And if it didn't work for me at that time, then I left the organization. This is a whole nother podcast. But what I share with people is I'm one of the leaders who tells you to look at yourself as a business. Mm-hmm. Treat yourself as a business. Mm-hmm. And, when we treat ourselves like as a business, no one can fault us for that. They may be upset at it, but no one can fault us for that. So when I'm sitting in an executive seat and somebody quits, they don't give a notice, I'm upset at that moment, but I'm excited for them because they treated themselves like a business. And they said, well, what does that mean? I said, well, if I was going to terminate them, I wouldn't give them a notice. Yep. I wouldn't say, oh, my God, you have kids at home. So how can I be mad at them when they don't care about our situation? How come when the shoe is on the other foot and I'm the employer, it's, oh, man, they should have gave us a 2-week notice and I'm going to give them they won't get a good referral and all of this. Well, they couldn't because they don't want to work here. They don't want to work here.
Exactly.
How about we look at why that person did that to us? Stop blaming the person.
Yep.
It's a whole nother episode.
Yep. No, you're 100% on. And I think that's the difference, too, emotional maturity upon the organization, right? Because if you're just, I think generally what I find is some organizations, many don't even realize they've got 6 different generations. And if you got 6 different generations in the workplace, you better have a different employee engagement process and a different cultural transformation process for each of them, because they're all different and they all need a lot of love. And so the opportunity is how you channel and harness their potential to bring all that together and make that your transformational culture. But I don't see a lot of organizations doing that. I see them rather, well, this one does that. I don't care what this one does, because you know what? They're all contributors. Do we want to be positive contributors, or do we want them to be not so positive contributors? And 9 times out of 10, they want to be positive.
Wow. Geoffrey, I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on Sound Leadership with DJ. How can the people reach you if they want to reach you? Should they go to your LinkedIn page? I am flashing a QR code to his LinkedIn page, but tell us how they can reach you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Connect on LinkedIn. Happy to connect. Happy to talk offline. look, happy to build a relationship and continue this dialogue and continue this conversation. And the best thing, the last thing I would just say is we're all in this together. And I know at times, so many people can be in really tough situations. And I can't say enough about the LinkedIn community because while we may not always meet in person, we have an amazing opportunity to help one another. And I know I'm wholly committed to that.
Man, it's been amazing, and I appreciate you for coming on to Sound Leadership with DJ. I courted you all of 2023, so to get you here in 2024, and I just appreciate it. And I'm excited for what you got coming up this year. I'm excited to see you grow. I'm excited to see you expand and share your knowledge on heart health, or heart leadership, rather. Heart health as well, right? You have a pacemaker, so heart health, you shared that knowledge, right, of how physicians, providers overlooked it and blamed it on another condition, right? Blame it on runner's heart. So heart health, heart leadership, connecting with people. And you touched on something that we're going to have to bring you back on. That's 6 generations, right? People don't talk about that, but you need a different engagement. What motivates that millennial doesn't motivate this other person, right? So we have to be able to engage with everyone if we want to see a successful and a positive workforce culture. So thank you. I appreciate it, man. And thank you to the viewers for joining us here on Sound Leadership with DJ. We hope that you gained valuable insights from our conversation with Geoffrey. If you've enjoyed this episode, we encourage you to like, subscribe, and follow us on our social media pages. You can follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube at Sound Leadership with DJ, and you can search for us on your favorite podcast platform and listen to episodes just like this one on iHeart, Alexa, Apple Music, so much more. Simply search Sound Leadership with DJ and hit that subscribe button. I want you to remember, leadership is a journey, not a destination. Keep striving to learn and grow, and never give up on your goals. We wish you all the best on your leadership journey, and we look forward to having you join us here again soon for more insightful discussions on Sound Leadership with DJ.
Thanks for tuning into Sound Leadership with DJ. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. Share your favorite takeaways with a friend or colleague. Leave a review and let us know what you think. And remember, leadership is not just a title, it's a choice. Choose to lead with purpose, passion, and impact.